Alright guys, Tactical Bit here, and it has finally been confirmed. OpTic have announced their 2018-2019 Call of Duty roster, and it's pretty much what we all expected, but of course the big news is Karma, the 3-time world champion, returning to the team after pretty much a 5-6 month hiatus after the Dynasty roster collapsed all that way back in April. So this is going to be the roster for at least the start of the 2018-2019 season. Certainly an interesting one. It should fix all of their problems in theory, but you can't help but feel the underlying chemistry issues that were present in the Dynasty team could yet resurface once again. On paper it's an incredible lineup, but we'll have to see if their placements match up to their reputation. So firstly, who's left the team? Octane of course has gone over to 100 Thieves. We've already known that for a while. That team is also very interesting. The acquisition of Slasher and Enable happening a couple of days ago. I'll make a video about that in a couple of days' time. Methods has also gone, and it's currently unknown where his future lies. Apparently he doesn't have too many offers on the table because he tweets out this just yesterday after the announcement. I'm doing my best to remain positive, but the position I'm in after this past year is a living nightmare, so clearly disappointing for Methods, who's no longer on the team and doesn't seem to have too many options all over the board. A team like FaZe Clan could have gone after Methods, but apparently they're targeting someone like a Beezy, or maybe even Accuracy, so he seems to be running out of options as of now. Maybe if Aqua leaves an org like Echo Fox, he could slot in there, but I'll talk about that more in tomorrow's Rostermania rumours. Now, TP is staying on as coach for the 2018-2019 season, so obviously he had very limited success last season. They only made it to one grand finals, where they lost, of course, to FaZe Clan in Stage 1 playoffs. Outside of that, they had a torrid year, so maybe this roster can be the one to turn it around. So, let's talk more about the team composition, starting with Dashy. Now, he's going to be the main assault rifle of this team, pretty much a replacement, you could say, for Formal, because, of course, if we discount TJHaLy for a second, this is effectively the old Dynasty roster minus Formal plus Dashy. And Dashy's been compared a lot to Formal, a super aggressive assault rifle with an incredible shot. But I'd almost compare him more to a Slasher style player in terms of how he uses the assault rifle. He doesn't post up on a head glitch, look down range and try and kill people with an easy gunfight. He takes incredibly difficult fights, he usually wins them out in the open, and he plays very aggressively. He's not a post-up assault rifle like someone like Octane or Methods is, really. He plays super aggressive, and therefore he could probably fit into a flex role very easily if desired. Karma has talked about he wants to be the main assault rifle, but of course on this team it doesn't look likely, but he should be able to use an AR in his hands on certain maps, given he now has Scump and TJ as his SMGs. He was almost forced into that role before with the Formal and Crimsix team. So this is Dashy's real opportunity to prove himself. Obviously he has been on Complexity for the rest of this year with Sensor, Blazd and Ricky, so not a crazy amount of slaying power on that team. Dashy effectively had to do it all. He impressed me so much. He was getting the hill time, he was winning gunfights he had no business winning, roaming around the map, just popping two pieces left, right and centre, rarely missing a bullet, so he should in theory be a great pickup, but of course, he's been on a team with relatively lackluster players. Some people might say he's baiting them or that they're setting him up for success, which may be true to some extent. With such a stacked team around him, can he still perform to the level that he has been? It's as yet to be seen, but I definitely think he has the talent, because whenever you watch him, he's all over the map, doing it all for the team. But, of course, he hasn't had the placings that the other guys have had. He hasn't made it deep in tournaments as yet. So, does he have the nerve when it comes down to the wire? It's yet to be seen. Someone who definitely does have the nerve is TJHaLy, the Iceman. He won 3 championships this year on Rise Nation, joined into this OpTic Gaming crew, and in terms of role dynamics, it works perfectly. Scump really struggled in the latter half of the season in Stage 2, when Octane and Methods and Crimsix all on one team. He had like no sub-support. Crimsix doesn't really have the pace to keep up with a player like Scump, and he was very much struggling in the stat line department, but I think a lot of that was due to the fact that he was the first man in and he had no business winning anything. His teammates were all behind him, effectively using him as bait. Someone like TJHaLy should do a great job in duoing up with Scump, which he really lacked in that second half of the season. Now, one thing Dashy and TJHaLy both add to the team is superb S&D play. Let's have a look at the stats for last season. In terms of respawn KD, Dashy's right up there with a 1.2, even though it's over less maps than a lot of the guys around him like Slasher, Octane, Formal, Methods, all the names I talked about. Then we look at S&D KD. Dashy is topping the charts at a 1.27. Incredible stuff from him. TJ's also down there at a 1.13 with way more maps played, keep in mind. Also, if you look back to Stage 1, this is where TJ was really on top of his game in S&D. at the start of the season, which I think is before he kind of got found out what he was doing and other people tended to steal his strategies. Search and destroy stats for stage 1, he had a 1.36, and I think towards the start of the season it was more like a 1.7. He has a crazy first blood percentage as well of 23, and I think Dashy probably has a very similar first blood percentage due to his sniping capabilities, which is another thing to talk about with him. Dashy with the sniper, kind of a replacement for Formal in that sense. Dashy will likely be using the sniper. Definitely one of the most talented with that weapon we have in the league. Maybe Pharaoh's another name to consider. Formal, of course, is certainly up there. And Karma has done it in the past. So Dashy will be your main sniper, and maybe if there's some maps that require 2 to be brought out on defense, Karma could probably pick that up as a second weapon. So OpTic are clearly targeting their weakness in Search and Destroy from last season. They were fantastic in Hardpoint, but Search and Destroy wins championships, you know, and it's consistency in that game mode which is going to get you across the line. And the fact that OpTic was struggling to win 50% of theirs was a real worry last season and prevented them getting deep in tournaments. TJ and Dashy surely have to be the answer. Young guys with a lot of experience in that game mode playing S&D tournaments over these years, and they've proven it this season, so it'd be a surprise to see them struggle in that mode. Now, of course, the last 3 on the team, these guys barely need an introduction. Scump, Crimsix and Karma, they've been around for ages. 3/4, of course, of the Dynasty roster without Formal. We know how good these guys are and have been. Now, of course, Karma's back for the first time since April. He didn't play the latter half of the season, didn't attend CWL Champs to try and defend his trophy, but he was grinding the beta and people know how good he is at any game he tries to pick up. He should be able to play the flex role more comfortably on this squad, because on the old team with Crimsix, who really prefers the assault rifle, and Formal, of course, being the main AR, he really had to be the support sub for Scump, which isn't really what he wants to do. Now TJ has taken over that role, and Crimsix has had the experience playing with the SMG if he wants to pull it out from time to time. Karma definitely should have free reign of which roles he wants to play, and I think that was a large part in why he decided to come back to this team, because there were many reasons that he didn't have to, but he has returned to OpTic. Clearly he feels comfortable in what he's going to be asked to do. So on paper this team probably has the best firepower out of any that have been announced so far. Maybe 100 Thieves can match it, but I'll talk about that in a couple of days. Especially if Scump is back to form. He didn't have the best year last year, I think largely because of the role situation. But in theory these guys should be insane. However, let's not pretend it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely some chemistry issues that could seep in, and I'd honestly be surprised if this roster goes the whole season. Now, first of all, let's discuss the Karma situation. Of course, he was dropped in April. Scump and Crimsix were definitely complicit in dropping Karma. Let's not pretend it was just Formal. Scump and Crim were happy for him to go. He's gone, and if it was 4v4, he would not have been coming back. It was Dashy and TJ as far as we know from the COD burner intel. Karma was only the pickup because it was 5v5. He would have been on another team if it was still 4v4. So maybe that's something that plays in the back of his mind. He's certainly had issues with these guys in terms of chemistry before. Maybe bringing in some young talent and some fresh ideas will spice things up and change the team dynamic. But Karma's definitely talked about before problems in his teams in terms of practice schedule and not enough commitment from his players. And now you bring in 2 young guys like 18, 19-year-olds in Dashy and TJHaLy. These guys have apparently had attitude problems as well, potentially failing to turn up for practice. It's a very common theme among young players who are very talented and have got a lot of gas, you could say, from the community, that they think they're untouchable to an extent and don't need to work as hard as some of the other players are. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the case with these guys, but just things I've heard. And how long has it really been since this OpTic core have played with young players like this? Okay, you've got Octane and Methods that have been on the team recently, but they've been around the scene for ages. Dashy's certainly pretty new to it. I guess TJ's been around a long time, competing since Advanced Warfare, being in 8s and all that stuff for so long. But someone like Scump and Crimsix, have they ever really played with young talent since they've been young talent themselves? So it's an interesting situation to see how they'll adapt. Are they prepared to mentor these guys all the way to the top? Because attitude problems and chemistry issues are probably likely. It depends whether guys like TJ and Dashy are really willing to step up to the plate and get in shipshape form for OpTic Gaming. There's so much more pressure on their shoulders now, and it's how they react to the situation. Will they grind their hearts out and really go for it, or will the pressure get to them to some extent, especially when you get deep in tournaments on main stage with the crowd cheering your name? It's something that Dashy especially, probably TJ as well to some extent, hasn't really experienced yet. So there's always that risk going in when you don't have a squad lined with veterans. So if this team doesn't have as much success as the fans will be hoping, it's interesting to see who will be the scapegoat. What always tends to happen with the OpTic Gaming lineups is that when it's doing bad, someone ends up catching all the brunt of the hate. So it was definitely Karma before. Earlier this year in the old lineup when they were really struggling, there was so many calls for Karma to be off the team. Now he's gone. Then they were struggling again, then it's calls for Scump to be off the team. Now in this squad, if things go pear-shaped, who bears the brunt? Because one of the reasons why Karma was having struggles being on the team was the brunt of the fan abuse to some extent when he wasn't seemingly performing up to standards. We'll have to see what happens if this roster doesn't do so well. Probably won't be Dashy because he's going to be putting up crazy numbers with the assault rifle, but my guess is one of TJ and Karma will probably take the heat if this team doesn't do so well. And Karma's also used to it, but TJ really hasn't had that situation very much, and being a young kind of temperamental player as it seems, maybe he won't react so well. So unless this roster has a superb amount of success, I don't really see it lasting, but I'll be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below. On paper it's fantastic, but we'll have to see what happens at CWL Las Vegas, December 7th through 9th. Also, if you're interested, Hitch is holding a Black Ops 3 throwback tournament this weekend. Scump, Dashy and TJ are playing in it with TJHaLy, so that should be a crazy team. You'll see how some of the chemistry goes on that. A little bit of a prelude to the upcoming season. So, like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, of course. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you see this roster lasting? How many titles are they going to win out of the 6 championships coming up in this season? I'll do another Rostermania Rumours video tomorrow to follow all of these announcements, and then I'll talk about the 100 Thieves lineup and hopefully a lot more down the road. So thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.